There is something so powerful about a simple, nourishing meal. When my family is under the weather, like we are right now, or just feeling down, a warm bowl of homemade soup can bring so much comfort, not just physically but emotionally too. Today I want to share with you the soups I turn to again and again to nourish my family in body and soul. They remind me that the food we make for our loved ones does more than just fill their stomachs. It brings warmth, love, and healing to our homes. Homemade food takes time, patience, and care, and while we might not always notice it in the moment, the meals we make have a lasting effect on our families. When I prepare a meal from scratch, I'm not just feeding my family, I'm creating a moment of togetherness, a sense of home, and even a memory that will stay with them. For me, there are a few recipes that I always go back to, especially when I want to nurture my family through food. These soups have become a part of our family's rhythm, and today I'm sharing them with you. The first one is my husband's healing fish soup. At least that's what I call it. Back in the day when all the pandemic started, my mom got really sick with the COVID. And my husband prepared this soup for her. And I can remember her reaction, thinking it was the most wonderful soup she had ever tried. And my mom is the queen of soups. This is a simple yet incredibly healing soup that my husband makes, and it has just a few ingredients: onion, tomato, water, and fish. Any kind of fish, really. No garlic, which is rare for us. And sometimes we add a bit of spinach for extra nutrition. But despite its simplicity, this soup is packed with flavor and feels just right when someone has a cold or when the weather calls for something warm and comforting. This soup reminds me that nourishment doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes the simplest meals are the ones that heal us the most. Second soup I want to share is the one that brings me right back to my childhood, Caldo de Res. Growing up in a big family, this soup was always on the table, especially on Sundays. It's a hearty, nourishing beef soup with vegetables, and it just makes you feel stronger and healthier after drinking it. Maybe because the meat you use, which here in the United States I find it in the Mexican supermarket as chamorro, has the bone included, and it just becomes kind of like a bone broth of beef. What I love most about this soup is how it gathers people together, just like it did in my childhood. You cannot make caldo de res just for one person. It really is the gift that keeps on giving. So, just as it did in my childhood, it now brings my own family around the table. And isn't that one of the most beautiful things about cooking? It gives us a reason to sit down, connect, and share in something nourishing, both physically and emotionally. To make caldo de res, I first put the chamorro, which is the kind of meat I get from the Mexican store, in the Instapot with water and a whole head of garlic and some onion as well for flavor. I put it in there with water for about 30 minutes to tenderize the meat. And then, as you saw here, I cut all the vegetables while the meat is cooking. I use potato, carrots, zucchinis, string beans. I used all the vegetables that I like, to be honest. I also add corn at the end, cabbage. I also use yuca, or in English, some people call it yaca, but it's also called cassava root. Different types of squash, such as calabaza, the Mexican squash, and winter squash. I made this soup for a friend recently that had a baby, and I think that it was a hit because it nourishes very much. The third recipe is another soup I grew up eating, and it holds so much meaning for me. In my country, Guatemala, we may experience poverty, but black beans are what keeps us strong and well nourished. Black bean soup is exceptionally delicious when paired with white rice and ground beef, but it's also comforting on its own. Some people also use pork inside this soup. It only takes a whole head of garlic, a whole medium onion, water and salt, and in the Instapot. And that's it. When I was little, my mom would spend so much time preparing this, cleaning the beans to remove small rocks, using an old-fashioned pressure cooker that took hours. Now I can make this soup in much less time, but the heart of the recipe remains the same. Some people add bay leaves. If you are someone that knows how to prepare these, let me tell you, I'm just giving the most simple recipe here. This soup is my go-to when I want a meal that will last and transform into other dishes like refried beans. And I love that I get to share my husband's and my heritage with our kids through cooking. Food nourishes our bodies, but it also connects us to our roots and uplifts our spirits. When I think about what I truly want for my family, it's not just health, it's patience, charity, hope, and peace. And I believe the simple act of cooking and sharing a meal helps cultivate these things. We may not always notice the impact of a homemade meal, but in the long run, it's these little moments, the gathering, the eating, the feeling cared for, that nourishes us the most. So if you ever feel like your efforts in the kitchen go unnoticed, I want to remind you that they matter. The love and intention you put into your cooking is felt, even in the simplest of meals. I love combining this soup with some rice, especially white rice, and our noodles and ground beef. And most people use sour cream, but I use yogurt. I have a confession to make. I used to feel a little embarrassed admitting how much I love black beans. In my country they are a staple, but here in the United States, they've sometimes been seen as poor people's food, or even the butt of jokes. And yes, I've definitely heard my fair share of bean jokes, but the truth is, people who turn their noses up at beans have no idea what they are missing, because they are packed with iron, protein, and nutrients that keep you strong. Now I proudly make them for my family, and I want my kids to grow up knowing the beauty and nourishment of this simple, humble, and delicious food. I love to hear from you. What are the meals that nourish your family the most? Do you have a go-to comfort dish when everyone is feeling under the weather? Share with me in the comments. I love to learn from you. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Let's continue creating homes that nourish not just our bodies but our hearts and souls as well. Till next time, my friend.